What's up, guys? Ben Bucks here. I officially owned my Mustang GT for 1 year. So today we're going to talk about my 1 year ownership experience as well as the total cost of that first year of ownership. So in a year, I drove a little over 6,000 miles in the Mustang. That's a little low, even by my standards, and that's because of the pandemic. I didn't have to really drive as much anymore. I think without the pandemic, I think it might have been closer to 8,000 or 9,000 miles in a year, but right now it's right a little bit over 6,000 miles since last October. So I want to start out with the total cost of ownership in the first year of owning this car. Overall, I'm pretty happy with it. I think it's on the pretty cheap side as far as owning a sports car, and having it be my only car that I own. I think that the total cost over this last year has been pretty reasonable. So I want to start off with how much gas I paid for this car in a year. I estimated what I usually do. It was kind of hard to track all the way back to last October when I first got the car, but for gas in a year, it's right around $1,000. I usually put 93 octane in my car. That kind of gives the most performance out of this engine, so usually I do put the premium fuel. So gas was $1,000 in a year for this car, and unfortunately I didn't really get around to any performance upgrades or any tunes or any modifications. Eventually I will, but for this first year I didn't do anything really. So as far as maintenance goes, the only thing I had to do was an oil change. That was the only thing I had to do. The tires are good, the brakes are good, everything feels good. And sometime, I would say, I think it was in the summer, I changed my oil at a local car shop, and the total cost was $87. And that's not bad. You could probably get it better elsewhere, but I'm pretty happy with it. Now, the biggest expense in this past year for owning this car is insurance. And, it really bothers me how much insurance can be. Even like a regular car, I used to own a Nissan, and even I thought that was a little bit much, what I was paying for insurance for that car. So the total cost of insuring this car in a year was $1,251.09. That does include owning my Nissan on the same insurance plan during the first, I say, like 6 months. So I would say that's still accurate. For every 6 months, my insurance for this car is a little under $600. So I think that that figure is pretty accurate for giving you a good idea of how much it is to insure this car for a year. So $1,251.09, yeah, that's the biggest expense so far I've had to, give for this car. It's insurance. You need insurance. You can't really, get your way out of that. And the only other expense I had to pay for this car in a year was once I bought the car, I had to do an emissions test. So the emissions test, I brought it to Firestone, not too far from where I live, and that was only $20. So which isn't that bad. It's just something you have to do. So the total cost of owning this car in a year was $2,358.09. Which, when we're talking about, a sports car, a V8 engine sports car, relatively new with high horsepower, in a year, $2,358.09, that's not bad at all. I'm pretty happy with that price. Obviously, it would have been more if, there was some parts that were older that needed to be replaced, or if I did some modifications to it, which, again, hopefully I do that soon. That's something I would really like to do. But I think that's pretty fair. I think that's a good, idea for you to know how much it is to own a car like this. You know, if this was a Mercedes or a Porsche or a BMW, you can definitely bet that it would be a little bit more than that. That's just kind of how it goes. If one thing needs to be fixed or changed, it's definitely going to be more than an American or Japanese car. And of course, remember, if you do maintenance yourself and do work on the car yourself, you'll be saving a lot of money. If you take your car to a shop, you're paying for labor costs. So if you do the labor yourself and you buy the parts yourself, you'll be saving a lot of money. So that's definitely something to keep in mind if you're thinking about owning a sports car like this. So as far as my ownership experience, I mean, I think by now you guys can tell that I really love this car and I'm really happy with this purchase. If you want to see more of my thoughts on what I really love about this car, I put a link in my description on the 5 things I love about my Mustang GT. So click that when you get a chance. But yeah, overall it's just been a great car. It's not a perfect car, and no car is perfect. I have, you know, gotten used to it, but I still feel this car is a little bit big for me. I wish it was just a tad like smaller. It's a really long car, and I'm pretty used to it now, but I still wish it was a bit smaller. But it's not a huge deal. If you don't warm up the car and let it sit for like a good 5 minutes, and you're turning and you're like using the brakes, the car does creak a little bit. But once it's warmed up, that goes away. So I think the car just needs to be warmed up. But that's something to note too. So after a year, the interior has held up pretty well. I do notice that some discoloration and kind of chipping away at some parts on the door panel. I'm not really surprised. That's kind of what you expect out of a Ford. You know, the Mustang is a nice car, but the materials aren't like a Mercedes or a Porsche. There's just plastic. So yeah, over time they're just going to diminish and get wear and tear. It's just plastic in here. Other than the leather that they used in here, everything else is just plastic or some kind of metal. So that's what you can expect out of a Mustang interior. I mean, the design's good, I like it, but the materials used, yeah, it's not the best thing. But you know, when you know about these cars, you know that what you're getting isn't good materials. The tires and brakes both feel good. I don't think I need to worry about that for a little while. One thing that is kind of not annoying, but just something, you know, that sucks, and it's pretty common with Mustangs. Around the car there are like little paint chips, but when you look at the front end, like the hood and like the front bumper, there's like scratches and then paint chipping off. That's pretty common with Mustangs. And it was like that when I bought it, and I noticed over this past year a couple more were added to it. I think one dent on the hood too was added. It's not a big deal, doesn't really bother me that much, but I've seen that be pretty common when I looked up Mustangs, that, you know, paint chipping is common with Mustangs, so that's something to note too. It doesn't really bother me. I think maybe eventually I'll do something about it, maybe fix it, bring it somewhere to get it fixed. My plan with this car is definitely own it for at least another 5 years maybe. I want to see kind of how I'm feeling, what kind of other options I'm interested in. Maybe I want to get a different kind of sports car, maybe a newer Mustang down the road. Maybe I want something completely different. Maybe I want, you know, a car more focused on luxury, or, you know, the Ford Bronco seems pretty appealing, so maybe that's something I consider too in the future. But I have no plans to sell this anytime soon. Like I said, I'm thinking like another 5 years with this car at least, and then go from there and see, you know, where I want to go as far as what car I want to own. I do plan on making a video about the 5 things I don't like about this car, so keep an eye out for that. In that video I'll go more in depth about the things that not bother me about the car, but things I wish I could change or tweak, or things that don't make it a perfect car. So to sum it all up, after a little over 6,000 miles in a year, this car is a ton of fun. Really happy with it. Total cost $2,358.09. Not bad at all for a car like this. Could be a lot worse, but I'm lucky. This has been a pretty reliable car, and it's great. And I hope many happy years to come with this car. I love this car. This is my dream car. Very happy that I own this car. So thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.